We parents are rightfully concerned that our kids should be reading good books, but many of us are just lost on how to actually make that happen. For example, I was once in the library and overheard a conversation between a dad who was hovering anxiously over the shoulder of his junior high boy, saying, "You've spent too much time on the computer. Pick out a book, pick out a book, pick out a book." And the kid was just standing there frozen, unsure how or what book to pick. And then I was at a used bookstore, and there was a poor 8-year-old girl who had picked up a board book and wanted to get that. But her dad said, "No, no bedtime books for you. You need to pick a book to help you improve your reading." And then there was the mom on a Facebook group that I'm a part of, and she wanted help because her daughter loves to read chapter books, but she had no idea how to get her daughter to pick good books or books that were of value to her. So out of years of staying silent, I'm finally stepping forward to help you as the parent train your kid on how to choose good books. Hi guys, Kathleen here. I'm a homeschool graduate, a homeschool mom, a learning enthusiast, and a very confirmed bookworm. Just ask my family. The first step to encouraging your kids to choose better books is for you to choose them and invite your kids to read them with you. For example, you choose Jabari Jumps and read that as a bedtime book instead of a Sandra Boyd board book. That way you're helping your kid, you're guiding your kid through the book choosing process, showing them these books right here are really phenomenal, awesome books. But these books over here, yeah, they're just not as great. Do the same thing with chapter books. Invite your son or daughter to listen to the Boxcar Children with you and say, "I loved this book as a kid." Or you can say, "I have never listened to this book. I want to listen to it. Can you listen to it with me?" That also has the added benefit of encouraging your child to enjoy reading because you are excited. You're coming alongside them to enjoy the book with them. The second way you can guide your kids into selecting the best books is to discuss each book that you actually do read. So, for example, you read a book and afterwards you talk about what you liked, what you didn't like about that book. Opening up the discussion, opening up both of you to ideas, to sharing your thoughts. And then once you get used to that, you can go on to point out, hey, they use that word in that book, which wasn't that offensive 100 years ago, but now it's pretty rude. Or, I don't like the attitude here. Or, that person did such an amazing job. We should try to do that. And then from there, you can say, hey, they went to the Amazon. Would you ever want to go to the Amazon? Would you want to try to volunteer at a dog clinic? Would you want to try to train a dragon? Encourage discussion, keep things open, teach your children to evaluate what they read, point out what's good, what's bad, what could be better, and that will in turn guide them into the better books versus books that are just okay. The third and probably the most important point here is to allow a range of books. So what should your kid be reading? Ella Enchanted or Little Woman? Both. I say that because all of us need a break. If you're working your brain muscle extra hard with a challenging book, then you should not be doing that with the next book. You need to be allowing yourself rest. Just like if you were to do weightlifting or a big run, you take days off. You take rest days. So you may read A Tale of Two Cities and then come back and read Ella Enchanted. I say that because Ella Enchanted came out when I was about 10 years old. And that was when I was going into the classics. That's when I was reading the Jane Eyre, when I was reading the Tale of Two Cities, the Dickens books. And then I heard about Ella Enchanted, saw it at the library, picked it up, fell in love with it. I call this the brain break, the easy read. You need both. You need both the more challenging books to read, which may or may not be Little Women, and you need Ella Enchanted. And every book in between. You need books of different genres. As I said before, think of it like a muscle. You should be working out different angles of your muscle. So one day you may pick a biography, the next day you pick a fantasy. That is a part of a well-rounded book list. But, and I say this as a huge, huge caution, point number 4, do not push your kids. Reading is supposed to be fun. So if you try to start dictating or micromanaging what they read, they won't love it anymore. So, some tips to deal with this. If you want your kids to take the next step in their reading development, for example, you have a 10-year-old who just read Ella Enchanted and loved it. And actually, that would be fairly phenomenal because Ella Enchanted is probably geared more towards 12 and 13-year-olds. But you have a 10-year-old who loved Ella Enchanted and absolutely loved it. So you suggest, hey, here's a book by Avi. Avi writes for all ages. And there's a really good book by Avi called The True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle. It has the added benefit of being historical fiction. So not only is your daughter being encouraged in her reading development, but she's getting a little bit of what it's like to actually be on a ship in the 1800s and sailing across the Atlantic. So they're micro steps. But at the same time, don't pressure her into it. If she's not interested, she's not interested. This would also be a great time to say, hey, I would love to listen to The Hobbit with you. I know you've been reading Harry Potter, but if you're ready for the next step up in adventure, let's do The Hobbit together because that is phenomenal. And when you get old enough, there are movies we can watch too. Final tip here, as your reader develops, you want to be doing small steps. Don't expect them to go from Ella Enchanted to Jane Austen. That is a giant step. That is books written for a middle schooler to a book that was written for an adult. That is too much to expect. You want to keep progressing in smaller steps. And occasionally you will have a kid who just suddenly finds a series that they absolutely love and they want to read it all. If they're good books, encourage them, even if they're Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew, yes, is not the greatest books out there. They're fun, but they're the easy reads. And maybe after 10, you say, hey, I've been seeing you have a lot of those books. Come listen to Treasure Island with me. It's all about you coming along, gently guiding, inviting them a little bit further. Okay. You want to have your kids read the good books, but you have no idea what the good books are. I can help you with that. Right here, this video I just recently put out is my big list of book lists. There are a lot of great reads on there from a lot of different sources, so I guarantee you can find one that you'll enjoy.